Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. It's the start of a new week, folks. All right, sun is shining, World Cup's going on, but we here to talk about a different kind of football, American football. All right. But nonetheless, if you have been keeping up with the World Cup, hasn't it been a great tournament? It really has. All right. But nonetheless, it has been a sad couple of days in the world of football, given the fact that Kam Chancellor has seemed to retire, I should say. Okay. I mean, you had ESPN and Fox Sports reporting that, tweeting out that isn't that weird how now basically, like, media outlets will send out tweets and that's basically them reporting stuff. It's like not really articles or anything like that anymore. But nonetheless, getting back to it, Kam Chancellor tweeted out a message about how, I mean, you could tell, yeah, he's retiring, but obviously ESPN and Fox Sports and all those guys got to be correct. So they say it seems he's retiring because he hasn't officially announced it or anything like that. But nonetheless, yeah, Kam Chancellor's retiring. Okay. We're going to be talking about that for this first segment. Second segment, we're going to be talking about coaches who might start off the year on the hot seat. All right, we'll see how many coaches we get to there. If we have to, we'll jump over to the third segment. And then later on in the show, too, we'll be talking about second-year players who I could see taking a big jump, kind of like the Carson Wentz way, all right? First year, you look good. Second year, you're an MVP candidate. We'll see what kind of players could do stuff like that. So we'll be talking about that for today. All right, so that's how today's show is going to go. Let's get into this Kam Chancellor stuff. All right, Kam Chancellor, for me, one of my favorite players in the NFL. I'll never forget the hit he laid on Vernon Davis. Oddly enough, that hit pretty much turned Vernon Davis into an average tight end. All right, and do people remember Vernon Davis like being a top tight end in the league, like one of the best? I don't think we talk about that enough. All right, now Vernon Davis is seemingly just a guy who is an average tight end. Maybe he's above that. No, he's average right now, I'd say. So let's see. He got drafted in 2006, talking about Vernon Davis. His first real good season was in 2009. He made the Pro Bowl that year. All right. And I wonder, what was the year that Kam Chancellor laid that hit on him? All right. That's what I want to know. I need to know what year exactly that was. Was it 2012? I'm not sure. All right. And I forgot, Vernon Davis has a Super Bowl ring. Already won a title with Denver. Let's see. In the playoffs, he played one game, had one target, no catches. Not great. Not great at all. I think 2013 was it 2013 or 2012 where he got laid out? I got to figure that out. Nonetheless, his 2012 playoff run, let's see, he played 30 games, 12 catches in 2012, 254 yards, one touchdown. 2013, he had 14 targets, 5 catches, 54 yards, 2 touchdowns. That might be it right there. Like I said, I have to double check. But nonetheless, Vernon Davis at one point was one of the best tight ends in the league. All right. And now he's just a forgotten man on the Redskins. Who knows? Maybe Alex Smith could bring Vernon Davis back. All right. They both played with each other in San Francisco for a while. Maybe. It's possible. Actually, you know what? Vernon Davis might actually be a sleeper on some of your fantasy teams. I'm not going to draft him because I'm not crazy, but Vernon Davis could have a sneaky good year. All right. But nonetheless, we're talking about Kam Chancellor here, obviously, rounding it back up. Like I said, we were talking about the hit. If you go on YouTube and you search Kam Chancellor, like his name pops up. I'm almost positive that the Vernon Davis hit is like the first thing you could click on. All right. But nonetheless, yeah, Kam Chancellor now going to be retiring. Had to deal with a bunch of injuries. All right. And that's seemingly why he is retiring. So now it's a point where Legion of Boom is no more. Okay. Richard Sherman's now on the rival team of the Seahawks playing for the 49ers. He's a 30-year-old coming off of an Achilles injury. We'll see how he does. Like I said, Kam Chancellor retired. Earl Thomas right now is holding out from the Seahawks because he wants more money. Well, he wants a new extension. And then Brandon Browner. What's Brandon Browner doing? All right. Did Brandon Browner retire? Let's find that out. Kam Chancellor's getting us to do some research here. All right. But nonetheless, I mean, Brandon Browner, wherever he is, he's probably committing some type of pass interference penalty right now, right? And Brandon Browner, like, was he really that good? Like, was he? Or was it just a matter of maybe that secondary made him look better? I mean, Brandon Browner only lasted from 2011 to 2015. That's a bit odd. I mean, his first season, his rookie season, makes the Pro Bowl, 6 interceptions, took 2 of them back for touchdowns. Am I reading that pass deflections thing right? 23 passes defended. I mean, his second year, 3 picks, only 6 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles though. All right, 2013, his last year was Seattle. 2012 too was a bit of a down year for him, only because he missed 4 games too. I think it was Adderall. They were all getting hit for Adderall. 2013, he only plays 8 games, has 1 interception. Like, this is crazy. Had 10 pass deflections. I mean, Brandon Browner only played 5 seasons. All right. I mean, did anyone expect that? Yeah, Brandon Browner's been out the league since 2015. I thought Brandon Browner's been in the league still. I completely forgot about him. So, I mean, you know what? The AAF or the XFL should really think about bringing in Brandon Browner. All right. He's 33. Am I reading this right? How did he come into the league so late? All right, so we got a little background on Brandon Browner's career. 2005, Browner got signed by the Broncos but broke his forearm, missed that season. 2006, he goes to the CFL. He's there for a while. All right, from 2006, I'm assuming, to 2011. 2011 when he signs with the Seahawks. All right, so that makes more sense. All right, because I was really, really losing my mind for a second. So he's got 5 years of NFL experience, but was signed to a team in 2005, broke his forearm, and played in the CFL after that. All right, so that makes a lot more sense. I was so confused there. But nonetheless, I mean, no, it does make sense. All right. Like I said, Legion of Boom is no more. All right. Kam Chancellor came in, I think, the same year as Earl Thomas. Probably one of the most dominant safety combo during that time. Okay. I mean, they were that good. Kam Chancellor was literally a guy where you're always watching out for him. All right. You're always checking out, where's Kam on the field? Okay, do I need to run this route up the middle, or should I just maybe take a play off here? That's how good Kam Chancellor was. Okay. And now he has retired. What's the Seahawks team going to do now? Okay. This is a whole different team here. I mean, can we say it's the end of an era? All right. And I'm curious too, like, Seattle Super Bowl window, that's closed, right? I think it's closed, but the window isn't locked. Okay? I think that's where we're at with Seattle. Their Super Bowl window, as of right now, is closed, but it could be opened with a few moves. Okay? Because let's not forget, yeah, Seattle missed out on the playoffs last year and all, but nonetheless, let's not forget that Pete Carroll has done well to draft. Okay? Let's not forget the fact that at one point, Matt Flynn, okay, yes, Matt Flynn was supposed to be the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks the year they drafted Russell Wilson. All right, like, can you imagine that? Matt Flynn, I mean, that's ridiculous. Okay? Let's see. He goes to Seattle in 2012. 2011, That's where he played 2 games, all right? In those 2 games, actually, he's got a playoff game log here. Did he play in the playoffs? Let's see. No, I didn't do anything there. It was a waste. But nonetheless, 2011, he has that year where he only plays 2 games. He plays 5, he starts 1, but nonetheless, threw for 518 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Okay, that gets him a big money deal with the Seahawks, and the guy doesn't even start for them because of Russell Wilson. All right. But my point I'm making here is they got Russell Wilson in the 3rd round. Russell Wilson's a top 5 quarterback. Pete Carroll knows what he's doing as far as drafting and developing talent. So that's why I say the window is closed but not locked, because Pete Carroll could bring this team back. That's very much a possibility. Okay. Will he? I'm not sure. But, I mean, he's got the most important position on his team already filled up, the quarterback. All right, Russell Wilson is a star. Russell Wilson is a guy who I think could, if he had an absurd year, take this team to the playoffs. And that's what it would take, an absurd year. All right. But it's going to be real interesting to see how this new look Seahawks team does. All right. Because, I mean, this is a culture change, right? I mean, you got rid of Michael Bennett, you got rid of Archer Sherman, you got rid of the voices. Okay? You got rid of the guys who spoke their minds. So, obviously, they probably want to stay out of the headlines a little bit more. All right? So, like I said, it's going to be real interesting. As of right now, I'd say that they're probably the worst team in their division. I think I'd take San Francisco over them as of right now. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about San Francisco as of right now, but nonetheless, I think I'd take Arizona over them and definitely LA. So we'll see how this defense looks, but definitely an end of an era with the Legion of Boom. I mean, one of the most fun units to watch. All right, now it's no more. So we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, like I said, we're going to be talking about some coaches who could be opening up the season on the hot seat, meaning you're not doing pretty well, you could be out of there. So we'll be talking about that, so stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Spent that first segment, talked about Kam Chancellor. Kam Chancellor also got us talking about Vernon Davis, Matt Flynn. I mean, of course he did, right? So we did that. He's going to be retiring. Legion of Boom for Seattle is no more. And, I mean, like I said, their Super Bowl window is closed, but the window's not locked. They could make it back eventually. But of course, you're going to need, Pete Carroll to work his magic as far as drafting great talent and developing it. All right. And maybe that's what Seattle's counting on right here. Okay, because of course, I mean, they got rid of a lot of talent on that defense, a lot of the voices on that defense, I'd say. All right. Maybe they're banking on the fact that Pete Carroll's always done well to draft and develop. It's a possibility, but it's a very risky one considering the fact that, I mean, in reality, who knows exactly who's going to turn out good and who's going to turn out bad. I mean, even Bill Belichick misses out on some players. All right? But nonetheless, I mean, speaking of coaches, we're going to have some on the hot seat this season, starting out from week 1. Okay? You don't get it done early, you might be out of there. I mean, let's see. Who are some names that come to mind? I mean, of course, Hugh Jackson's the first one, no doubt. All right? maybe Dirk Cutter could be on the hot seat there. Last year, if John Gruden decided to go to Tampa Bay, Dirk Cutter would have been out of there. Let's see, who else? Dirk Cutter, Hugh. I'd say Adam Gase. Adam Gase. Let's see, who else? Vance Joseph is also one. That's about 4 coaches right there. Are we missing anyone else? I'd say that all the coaches in the NFC West are pretty protected. Like I said, NFC South, just Dirk Cutter's the only one who's on the hot seat. I'd say NFC North, I'd say McCarthy, but Rodgers isn't going to be, they won't be bad enough to where that's a problem. All right. NFC East, I feel like all those coaches got their job set up. All right. I do think Jason Garrett, if the Cowboys were to miss on the playoffs, could get fired, but it'd be like after the season type of thing. So yeah, we just got pretty much 4 coaches, I say, that right now are on the hot seat to start the season off. All right. Obviously, you're not going to get fired after losing week 1, but let's say you start off 0-4, 0-5, 1-4, stuff like that. You could be out of there. All right. Let's start off with Hugh Jackson. So now that LeBron is on the Lakers, okay, for those of you that follow basketball along with football, the Cleveland's up for grabs. Okay? It really is. You got the Indians, who are number 1 in the AL Central right now. They're not great, though. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs. Okay? The AL right now belongs to the Red Sox, Yankees, and Nationals. One of those teams is going to make the World Series. Maybe the Mariners. Possibly. All right? So you got the Indians right now. The Cavs are going to be a complete dumpster fire. Okay? You got the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's not necessarily Cleveland, though. Okay? And then you got the Browns. I'm assuming Cleveland is a football city when LeBron's not there. All right. Are they finally going to take over from the Cavs? I think they are. Who's going to be the face of Cleveland now, though, from the Browns, now that LeBron's gone? Is it Baker Mayfield, the guy who's probably not even going to play a game this season, most likely? I wouldn't say so. Myles Garrett, I think he's ready for that throne. Let me see. I think Myles Garrett sent out a tweet talking about it. And Myles Garrett, no one really talked about him last season, okay, because they were too busy going 0-16, but he had a real solid rookie year. All right, let me see. Myles Garrett, Jurassic Miles is his Twitter name. Well, it's at Myles L. Garrett, but he's got Jurassic Miles on there. Let's see if I could find his little tweet about him taking over. I don't think we're going to be able to. Let me see. Maybe he was like, yep. At King James, if you don't want to take your throne with you, I'll take it. All right. I like it. Myles Garrett's ready to take over. Perfectly fine with me. All right. But nonetheless, that all sounds fine and dandy, but Hugh Jackson's got to get this team going. Okay. Hugh Jackson's 1-31 in his last 2 seasons with the Browns. His first 2 seasons with the Browns. Okay. And I feel like if he goes like maybe 1-36 after the first 5 games of this season, how can you even keep him there? Okay, this Browns team is way too good on paper to struggle early on. All right. Tyrod Taylor, Nick Chubb, Carlos Hyde, Landry, Gordon, Coleman. They got a lot of good players there. And they don't have the easiest of schedules to start out. They got to play the Steelers first, then the Saints in New Orleans, then they got to play the Jets. I could see them winning that one. All right, you got to play the Raiders. Raiders are I don't get the Raiders at all. I have no clue what to expect from them. Then you got the Ravens and Chargers. All right, that's their first 6 games. Let's see. What could I see them going in their first 6? They're going to lose to Pittsburgh, I feel. I think they'll lose to the Saints. You can beat the Jets. They're in Oakland, so I'll go with the Raiders there. That's 1-3. Versus the Ravens, I could see them beating Baltimore, 2-3. Versus the Chargers, 2-4. All right. So I think Hugh might be all right. But nonetheless, like I said, if the Browns were to jump out to a very disappointing start to this season, Hugh Jackson, there's no point in keeping him around. All right. Obviously, if it didn't work in the first 2 seasons, looking like it's not going to work here, get rid of him. All right, so Hugh Jackson definitely is on the hot seat to start the season. Okay, do I think he will be fired? No. I think this Browns team is way too good for Hugh to mess up. Hugh's not even calling the offensive plays anymore. It's Todd Haley. Todd Haley's going to be having this offense playing nice. Okay. Only thing I'm really worried about with the Browns is that defense. Defense is still real young. Got to develop some more. Okay. But nonetheless, like I said, with the Browns, like I said, it's just someone's got to take over Cleveland now. Could be the Indians, could be the Browns. Probably going to be the Browns. All right. But, it's going to be real difficult for Hugh to mess this up. Looking at their draft, I like a lot of the players that they brought. I like Antonio Callaway, wide receiver out of Florida. I like Denzel Ward, even though that might have been a bit of a reach. I like the Nick Chubb pick. I like the Chad Thomas pick. All right. Baker Mayfield, I did like it at first, but if you look back at Big 12 quarterbacks who have had great NFL careers, list is very small. I don't even think you can really make a list out of it. Okay. And if you could make a list out of quarterbacks who are about 6 feet or under from the Big 12 who had great NFL careers, I think that list does not exist. All right. So it's going to be real interesting to see how the Browns start off this season. Okay. Like I said, Hugh is definitely someone who is on the hot seat. What do you think it would take for Hugh to keep his job after this season? They can't go 4-12 and keep Hugh Jackson. There's no way. Okay. I think Hugh needs at least 7 wins. Okay. I think if he were to get 6, fans would be happy with it, but nonetheless, I think management could be looking for a reason to get rid of him since they brought in John Dorsey and all that. All right. Usually when you bring in a new GM, you want to, bring in your own staff and all that, but obviously he didn't get the luxury of doing that. All right. So, like I said, he was definitely on the hot seat. He doesn't win 7 games this season, I think he's out of there. 6 games, he's out. Okay. So it's going to be real interesting there. Let's see, who else? We talked about Dirk Cutter. Jameis Winston did Dirk Cutter no favors here. Dirk Cutter was already a guy who was on the hot seat last season in his first year. Okay? Jameis is gone for the first 3 games. Obviously, we've covered that. They got to play the Saints, the Eagles, and the Steelers. That's 0-3. You play in the NFC South. That's another 3 losses there. At least. So that's already 6 losses on the table. Okay? See, you got to play the Redskins, who are going to be tough. 49ers are going to be tough. Giants are going to be tough. You got to play in Baltimore. You got to play in Dallas. This team could go 4-12 or 6-10. And I think if that happens, then there's no way that Dirk Cutter keeps his job with the Bucs. Okay? There's no way. So Dirk Cutter, definitely a guy who, yeah, I could see Dirk Cutter losing his job after this season. Okay? And even possibly during the middle of the season. Tampa Bay is in a real bad spot here because of Jameis. Okay? You got other people's jobs on the line because of him now. They don't play well when he gets back. Dirk Cutter's going to be out of there. Because like I said, they were ready to get rid of the guy if John Gruden gave him the word. All right, I think it was between Tampa Bay and Oakland, and I think it was just probably Mark Davis, as crazy as he is, told John, yeah, we'll give you 10 years, $100 million. Just come over here. Okay? So it'll be real interesting to see how these 2 coaches for the Browns and Bucs seem to manage the start of their seasons. All right? But nonetheless, we're going to spend the next segment talking about 2 other coaches. Like I said, Adam Gase is going to be one of them. All right? Made the playoffs his first season with the Dolphins. After that, didn't really do anything last season. And we're going to talk about Vance Joseph. So stay tuned, and I will be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC football podcast. We spent the first segment talking about Kam Chancellor and some other players that seemingly connected to him in that segment, and we also talked about in the second segment some coaches who could start out the season on the hot seat. We talked about Hugh Jackson and Dirk Cutter. Now we're going to head over and talk about two other ones, all right, for this segment. Adam Gase and Vance Joseph. Let's start off with Vance Joseph. Okay. Vance Joseph last year with the Broncos, I believe, went 5-11. Okay, finished last in the AFC West. And I mean, just were terrible last season. Okay? I mean, it's ridiculous watching a team go 3-out as much as they did. I mean, I feel extremely bad for the defense considering the fact that you got to play about 59 minutes of each game, which is 60 minutes. Yes, I'm over-exaggerating, but nonetheless, it was that bad. All right? And now you got your quarterback. Okay? Case Keenum. He's the guy now. Best quarterback they had since Peyton Manning. Okay? And it's a point where there's no more excuses for the Broncos here. You got what you needed. You still got a solid defense. You still got some weapons on offense. Now you got to go out and win ball games here. Okay? Looking at their schedule to start, they got Seattle week 1. A little Super Bowl rematch there. Then they got the Raiders, the Ravens, Chiefs, Jets, Rams, Cardinals, Chiefs, Texans, Chargers, Steelers, Bengals, 49ers, Browns, Raiders, Chargers. That's their whole schedule. I know I'm saying the whole schedule, but nonetheless, it doesn't look relatively difficult. Okay, so that puts even more pressure on Vance Joseph, I feel. Okay. I never really understood why Denver brought in Vance Joseph. Okay. Just given the fact that when he was the D coordinator for Miami, I think they had, the 31st worst defense? Like, it was bad. Okay. But nonetheless, he's there, and now, like I said, it's just the point where they got to win ball games. There's no excuses here. You drafted Bradley Chubb, took Cortland Sutton, all right, drafted Royce Freeman. I mean, what more do you need? You got Case Keenum, the guy who took the Vikings to the NFC title game. All right. There's literally nothing left. No excuses left for them to make. They got to win games this year. Meaning they got to win 9 at least, or 8. I don't know, 8 games seems like a bit of a disappointment. I think if they win 8, he's out. Okay. Yeah, I think 8. He has to win 9 games this season. Okay, because, I mean, looking at it last year, it seemed like he was going to get fired. All right, I think it was like something like last minute where they decided to keep him. And now it's just the point where if a team does that, you're on a short leash. All right. Yeah, you're definitely on a short leash. Because you already know there was some heat on your back as far as last season. Obviously, you didn't coach up to expectations. Now you have to. All right. But like I said, I mean, they do got a pretty easy schedule. Could they add 4 wins this season? Seattle's not going to be that great. At least I think, like I said, the Raiders, they'll probably split with them. I think they could beat Baltimore. Okay, you might split with the Chiefs. Actually, they'll probably go 3-3 in the division, so let's go 3-3 right there. Okay, I could see them beating the Ravens. That's 4-3. Seahawks 5-3. The Jets 6-3. Rams 6-4. Cardinals, that's in Arizona. I'll go 6-5. Texans 6-6. Steelers 6-7. Bengals 7-7. 49ers in San Francisco. In Santa Clara, I should say. They're not San Francisco. I'll go 8-7. I don't know. That's going to be a tough game there because that's real late in the season. That's a December game right there. I don't know. They're probably going to go 8-8 or 9-7. All right, from what I'm looking at right here. Like I said, 8-8, I don't think is good enough to keep Joseph. I think 9-7 keeps him there. So we'll see about it. I mean, like I said, Vance Joseph isn't necessarily the greatest coach to me. But of course, now that he's got a quarterback, he could make a lot of changes. All right. And then you got Adam Gase. Adam Gase's first year, they go 10-6 with the Dolphins. They make the playoffs. That's not something you necessarily hear if you are with the Miami Dolphins organization or a fan. Okay. But nonetheless, they made the playoffs, and then this past year was about as frustrating and annoying as it could get for one team. At points, looked like, oh yeah, maybe they got it put together early on in the season. Then, Jay Cutler's Jay Cutler. Okay. And let me see if I could find their game-by-game schedule last season. All right. Let's see real quick. Because I know at one point Miami was 4-3. Okay. Believe it or not. And let's see right here. Let me get the 2017 schedule right here. Let me see. So we got it. So yeah, they beat the Chargers week 1. So they started off the season. Yeah, they started off the season 4-2. Okay. Lost to the Jets, lost to the Saints, ended up putting 3 wins in a row against the Titans, Falcons, and Jets. Then they got their annual blowout by the Ravens. They lose to the Raiders, they lose to the Panthers, they lose to the Bucks, and they lose to the Patriots. Go on a 5-game losing streak. All right, at that point, they're 4-7. Then they beat the Broncos, beat the Patriots at 6-7 right there. And then they lose the last 3 games. So they finish 6-10. All right. Not great. Not great at all. Especially considering the fact that you could tell Stephen Ross really wants to turn this team into a winner. All right. Usually for coaches, you get a 3-year window. Okay. If you do not show that the team you are coaching is poised to make the playoffs or be a contender in those 3 years, you're out. Okay? And that's where Adam Gase is at right now. Personally, I think Miami is going to do well this season. I like their draft, and I think Tannehill's going to have a decent season back with Miami, coming back from his knee injury. Let's see, looking at their schedule, I could see them sweeping the Jets. Okay? I think they'll split with Buffalo and split with New England. So that's 4-2 in your division. They play the Titans week 1. That's a home opener. I'll take Miami in that one. That's 5-2. You play the Raiders at home. I'll go 6-2. You play the Bengals in Cincinnati. I'll go 6-3. You got to play the Vikings and Packers. I'll go 6-5 right there. I think they could beat Detroit and Chicago at home. So that's 8-5. I think they'll lose the Texans on Thursday night. So that's 8-6. Playing in Indianapolis, that's going to be tough. They got to play the Jags, so it's 8-7. And then that game against Indy. So they could go 8-7, 9-7. I think I picked them earlier on this, early couple months ago to go 9-7. All right. I think that keeps Adam Gase there. But there's also the point where Stephen Ross could just have it in his mind. We don't make playoffs, Gase is gone. All right. Now, that's a possibility there. But, I mean, Miami, that's a big if. Okay, if they play well, I mean, the AFC is weak enough to where they can make a wild card spot. You're not going to win the division because Tom Brady's still there. But nonetheless, I could see them getting a wild card spot if they play this season well. I think 9-7 could get you in also. Okay? But, I mean, a lot of the season depends on Ryan Tannehill. Adam Gase really went out on a limb by not taking a quarterback in this year's draft. Usually you take a quarterback in the draft, that gives you about a year or two more of extra time to work. Okay? Now he's rolling with Ryan Tannehill as his guy. And you know what? The backup's probably going to be David Fales or Brock Osweiler. So Tannehill goes down this season, you're done. Okay? But nonetheless, a lot of his job security going forward does depend on Tannehill. I think out of anyone, I think I'd see that Joseph, Cutter, or Jackson are the ones who get fired. I think Gase is the better coach between all those guys. All right, but like I said, Gase isn't necessarily safe either. All right. I think if Miami were to start off like 1-5 or anything like that. Actually, Gase is someone who I don't think would get fired mid-season, probably an after-season type of thing. All right, and that's only if they start off real slow. Okay. But like I said, I mean, the 4 coaches that we've talked about the last 2 segments, definitely on the hot seat this season. All right, they got to do something, especially Hugh Jackson. Okay, Hugh Jackson doesn't, early on in the season, he's gone. Vance Joseph, too. Okay. Actually, I'd say Hugh Jackson and Dirk Cutter are the ones who are the most on the hot seat right here. So, we'll see how this season shapes out. I mean, it'll be real interesting, but nonetheless, we're going to be talking about some second-year players, see what kind of jump they can make, and we'll talk about anything else going on in the world of football as we always do. So, stay tuned, and I will be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Today we've talked about Kam Chancellor. We've also talked about coaches who could be on the hot seat this season. Now we're going to pretty much talk about anything else going on in the world of football, or anything that crosses my mind. Because, I mean, honestly, there's not too much news going on in the NFL right now. All right? I mean, we've already covered the Jameis Winston thing about a few times. Cam. Okay. But nonetheless, yeah. It's been a pretty quiet NFL offseason for the most part. Okay? I think we're all just ready for training camp, to be honest. I mean, that's what? Starts at the end of this month? We're close. We're not that far off from this NFL season. Okay? Not at all. I didn't realize that. We're finally in July. Next month we get preseason. When is the first preseason game? I think it's August like 2nd or something like that, I think, the Hall of Fame game. I know we talked about it on Friday, I think. So we're getting closer and closer, but nonetheless. So it's August 2nd, so about a month. A month till our first football game. Okay? Can we do it? I think so. Let's see, that Hall of Fame game, it's Chicago versus Baltimore. Give me Mitchell Trubisky versus Lamar Jackson, please. All right? But nonetheless, like I said, I mean, not much else going on right now as far as the NFL. Okay. I've been seeing the Chargers get brought up as a team who could compete for the Super Bowl. They are, but can we see that? Is there a possibility of that happening, them going to the Super Bowl? All right. I mean, I don't think we could trust the Chargers here. Okay? I mean, they've been a team who make the playoffs constantly but always get bounced out, whether it's the wild card round or division round, or if they get lucky, then the championship round, but you're playing Tom Brady, so they lose. Okay? But nonetheless, I mean, yeah, Chargers team has been thrown out there a lot. Okay? They're real solid as far as an all-around team, but they don't got that it factor type of thing. All right. But nonetheless, we mentioned earlier about second-year players who could make a big jump this season. I think Deshaun Watson could be one of those guys, but his knee injury does scare me a bit. Okay. Just this, not to the point where I think he's going to be terrible, but as far as his development, this could hold him back a bit, because we saw Carson Wentz after 1 year. He went from his rookie year playing all right to his second year, boom, MVP candidate. Probably would have won it, like I said. And I think Deshaun Watson's the guy who could make that jump. Because, I mean, if you saw Deshaun Watson last season, he's got talent. I'll say that. I'm not going to go out and say he's got all-time talent or anything like that, which he could. But nonetheless, I mean, like I said, I could see Watson being one of those guys who takes that next step. The rest of our rookie quarterbacks were Deshaun Watson, Trubisky, and Kaiser. Who else did we have last year in the draft as far as quarterbacks? Let's double check that, actually. But nonetheless, I say that as of right now, obviously, Deshaun Watson was the best quarterback in that draft, and I think he is going to be the guy who how do you say, ends up taking that next step, like a Carson Wentz type of year. So we have Mitch Trubisky, okay, Mahomes, Watson, all those quarterbacks taken in the first round. Second round, let's see, we have any quarterbacks in the second round? We had Deshaun Kaiser. He needs to spend a lot of time in Green Bay as the backup. Let's see, third round. Yeah, Davis Webb could be the guy to take over for Eli Manning eventually. CJ Beathard, it's a career backup right there. Fourth round, let's see. Josh Dobbs, yeah, he's not going to last too long in the NFL. Round 5. Any quarterbacks taken round 5? Nathan Peterman, pass. Let's see, round 6. We had any quarterbacks taken round 6? I don't believe so. Actually, we had Brad Kaya. Yeah, he's not going to last too long in the NFL. Maybe as a backup or a third string guy. Maybe he ends up like a Josh Johnson, just getting signed to team after team. And then Chad Kelly. So there wasn't that many good quarterbacks taken. All right. I mean, let's say Trubisky and Watson are the best ones. Mahomes, we got to see how he does. All right. But yeah, definitely. Watson is going to be that guy who I think takes the next step. Okay. But nonetheless, I mean, as far as the Texans go, I'm more curious. I think they could be the Eagles of this season. Okay? They could. I could see that happening big time. Last year, they were a team who, and like I said, the only thing that really holds them back is the knee injury from Watson. Okay? Because last year, we saw Watson was lighting it up. All right? Hanging around with the big teams, meaning they were going toe-to-toe with the Seahawks and the Patriots and all those guys. And you could tell there was something special there. Of course, Watson blows out his knee in practice. But nonetheless, I mean, I don't know. Texans might be my sleeper Super Bowl pick. Okay? Watson's that good, and I think the team around him is that good. You got J.J. Watt, Hopkins, Clowney. All right, solid linebackers. Matthew coming in. But, yeah, I'm gonna say that. I'm not saying that they're gonna make the Super Bowl or anything like that, but I do think they'll be this year's Eagles, meaning they're gonna come out with a second-year quarterback and they're gonna play well. All right, it's gonna be a bit unexpected, mainly because no one really looks for it. But nonetheless, it's gonna be interesting to see how the Texans look this season. Let's look at their schedule this season too. All right, because I mean, you get to the playoffs, anything could happen. So let's see. Obviously, their division. I'm gonna say they go 3-3 in the division. All right. Yeah, actually, I'll say they go 3-3, okay? So then they got the Patriots. I'm going to call that, that's week 1. I'm going to call that I don't know. Patriots never really start off strong. I'm going to give that to the Texans right there. All right. If he's there week 1. We're going to act as if Deshaun Watson's going to be there week 1. Okay, so I give them against the Texans. That's 4-3. They play the Giants. I'll go 5-3. Dallas, I'll go 5-4. Versus the Bills, 6-4. Versus Miami, 7-4. At Denver, tough. Let's see, Denver, I'll go 7-5. At Washington, I'll go 8-5. I got the Browns 9-5. Jets 10-5. Eagles 11 Eagles. So I got them going like 10-6. Okay, I think that's good enough to get you into the playoffs. All right, I think even 9-7 will be good enough to get you into the playoffs. But nonetheless, I mean, it's going to be real interesting to see how this team performs. All right, and I'm real curious to see how the Colts do. We talked about them on Friday. I just want to see how Andrew Luck performs. All right, that division. I mean, like I said, it could put out 3 teams in the playoffs in the AFC. Like, I wouldn't doubt that at all. That's very much a possibility. Okay? But, nonetheless, I mean, I don't know. Could Deshaun Watson win MVP this season? I think if Deshaun Watson were to throw for, like, over 4,000 yards, maybe throw for over 25 touchdowns, less than 12 picks and they go 10-6 and makes the playoffs, I think that gets Watson the MVP. Okay? Given how big of a story he was last season, I mean, why not? I don't know. Deshaun Watson might be my MVP pick. I'm really liking this Texans team right here. All right. I like Lamar Miller at running back. Like I said, you got solid receivers. Offensive line, I think it's going to be fine. Let's see. Houston went 4-12 last season. Then you add 6 more wins. That definitely gets you an MVP. All right. So it's going to be, like I said, real interesting to see how the Texans end up playing this season. Like I said, I do see Deshaun Watson being that guy who kind of have like the Carson Wentz type of jump, where you go rookie year, you're looking good. Second year, you're an MVP candidate. I could see that happening, all right? But anyway, we're going to wrap it up here. Today we talked Kam Chancellor. We talked about coaches on the hot seat. And then for this segment, we talked about a whole bunch of things about football as far as Chargers and Deshaun Watson. So thanks for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. I will be back tomorrow, so stay tuned, and I will talk to you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.